looking at the Nasdaq and looking at the S&P 500 on the day, we got some good movement. We're moving in the right direction. You're getting some continuation. Now, we had a little bit of a hiccup to start the day, and there was a little bit of some underlying issues we need to discuss that I do believe are showing some of the possibilities midweek, because middle of this week, we have some very important data being released, and Powell said this is the only thing that can get them, pushing rates higher, or getting them to continue raising rates, to continue to see downside in the market, this specific indication. Now, looking at where we're at here on the Nasdaq, as you can see, some nice follow through back to the upside. What I will say here, you're on the 4-hour chart, you're clearly still at local highs, right? Nothing's really changed. We're at this local high up here. Don't get too excited. As Kobe said, job is not finished, right? Now, we go to something like ES, and again, you can see you're kind of in the middle of that range. But what is that one level we've been discussing? 41.38. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, it's down below. I kind of just stuttered over my words. The newsletter, sorry. If you're not subscribed, it's there. What did we say? If you're above 41.38, you are bullish. The end. You continue to hold above. You get that wick down almost perfectly today. As you can see, like here on the 5-minute, you can see you wick down right a little bit below 41.38. Buyers instantly step back in and push you back up. So we're getting a lot of answers here today. We're getting a lot of key signals we need to be paying attention to. Okay, the one area of the market that had the most downside, that showed little strength on the day, was primarily the Dow. Now, Dow, it came back into that, this massive level we've been watching, came back in, got rejected, pushed back down. Okay. Nothing too concerning, nothing to get, overly worried about, but that's where we're at. Okay. Now, before we go into too much more content, to ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. This is not my favorite part of the video to do, but I have to ask, and I do appreciate all the love and support you guys show. You can see every single day we post videos Monday through Friday, going over the fundamentals and also the technicals, so you know what to expect here in the market every single day. If you're interested in getting inside the Discord and getting around a bunch of like-minded people like yourself that are trading nonstop every single day, giving you ideas, giving you setups, but also teaching you what we're doing along the way, Discord may be for you. I always tell people, though, don't join if you're just looking for signals, okay? You need to understand that. It's a place where you got to put in work, right? That's why it's so active, and that's ultimately why I think our community keeps coming back, is because we're really built something that's helping everyone move forward together. Giving you a visual of some of the stuff we looked at on the day, just giving you a little bit of a look. Jay, this morning, the only trade really that was mentioned that had a lot of high confidence, which we'll go into here in a little bit in the video, was NVIDIA, which was also mentioned in the newsletter for absolutely free. If NVIDIA is able to mount 285.95, it has room higher to both of these targets. Once you got above, obviously you started pushing above, and that was the trade of the day. And the thing just ultimately didn't stop moving. There we go. Now, let's get into where we're at and how we're moving. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you something. And I'm actually going to give you the good stuff before we even jump into the video. Wednesday, just so you know, this is Tuesday. There's not too much really going on here, but Wednesday is going to be like the tip of the iceberg for us. CPI data will be released. PPI will be released most likely Thursday. Now, CPI is going to be very, very influential in the upcoming rate hike decision, in my opinion, as far as PC as well. But CPI has kind of led the pack as of recently. The Fed says PC is the most important, but CPI kind of points them in the direction, in my opinion, or kind of sets the tone. Now, if you're looking at CPI, a big concern over the past few days and weeks has been oil, right? Now, oil overall, as we look here like on the daily chart, you had a really nice push up. You hit the 200 SMA, and then you came crashing back down. But oil has spent a lot of time under like the average of 73, 74 over the past month. So it makes me wonder about, is CPI going to be as bad as we anticipated? Because I thought CPI had a lot of potential to be bad over the last month. But I mean, you spent no time really at the highs of this range. So it makes me question it. Also, expectations aren't that crazy. Core CPI, they think it's going to stay flat. Core CPI year over year, they think it's going to basically stay flat. Okay. Now CPI, again, a little bit of a downside, but not too much. Nothing crazy across the board here. So the outlook isn't too wild or hard to beat or to even get to, right? To just stay flat. So when I'm looking at this, I think it's definitely an area for us to remain with caution and don't get overly optimistic in one way or the other. Now, one area that I will tell you that was a bit of a worrisome part, I would like to start with the talk with the bad first and go in with some of that optimistic outlook and things that I'm looking for, is when we look here at Bookmap, give you a visual, and just all this is level 2 data. The link for this is down below if you want to check them out, but it's level 2 data just with a heat map. So it's just showing you what's happening with the visualization. I'm a visual type of guy, so I like seeing it, not just reading the tape that's happening there. Now you can see our largest iceberg orders were toward the downside today. Right, we had one about, this is like 2,800. That's a really big order right there, 2,800 lots, and then another, I think right here around 1,900. So 2 decent sized, sellers that stepped in here. Now, what I will say is you pushed up, you pushed down to 41.38, instantly bounced. So when we look here, I think some of the volume, some of the pressure that came in today, I think favored the downside on ES and Dow. Nasdaq, it's a totally different story. We'll go into that chart in a second once again. But again, we can take a quick look at the overall volume that was traded here on SPY today, and it was pretty minimal, around 49, 50 million on the day. Almost half of your 30-day moving average. So not a lot of action there. Okay, understand that. Now, when we go back here, you can still see those are like kind of near midday, around like lunchtime, right? And then you kind of just proceeded to go up, but still no big buyer stepped in, worth mentioning. Okay, now, could this be a hedge? Could this be, a safety net position going into CPI if, funds are very long into equities? It's possible. Now we go into the cheddar flow and look what's happening here. SPY, biggest contracts, minimal, right? Nothing really short dated, nothing that's really grabbing the attention. We want to see short dated positions because those give you the better and the best view. Qs, again, nothing too crazy here. No one's really making any big bets here. VIX. Honestly, VIX, if anything, you would see calls here because it's the easiest and best way to hedge. Nothing really coming in here. SPX, kind of mixed, but still nothing too crazy here as well, right? So again, we've seen a lot more volume on some of these days. Now we'll go over IWM before we wrap up. IWM, you're seeing a little bit, but again, nothing super short dated. You're seeing some May 19th. You saw some, right here, some June 16th. But all in all, nothing crazy. And these are in the money puts. So again, they're not super, screaming attention, right? That's what's important to view here. Now, going back to the chart, I'm very careful, and this is going to be a bulk of the video here, guys. I'm very careful when I talk about when we get to these ranges. There's no reason for us to jump to a conclusion or start hammering calls at the high of the range. Even though I am kind of bullish going into some of these data readings, I will say you have to maintain your composure here because this is where everyone loses their money. If we look here over the past, month and a half, every time we've come into 13.3, if you went short, you had a great money making opportunity back down to 12, 13,000, 12.95, right? I mean, like 5-6 opportunities. Now, as you consolidate here, I do think you get more and more bullish, right? So we have to understand that. But right now, I think the play is just remain patient here, guys. Again, looking at the 1-day chart, as we can see, we're making higher lows continually. We're getting more and more bullish at the top of this range as well. You're holding, buyers continue to push you up with more and more strength. Again, tech still looks ready to go. It still looks like it has that momentum that we've been really wanting and waiting for. On the daily, a fantastic candle close here for the Nasdaq. Fantastic, okay? Going into something like ES, I think ES still has at least like 50 points of upside, to 4,200, right? That's the big area here, and you're just not there. So like giving you a visual, just dragging this up to 42 so you can see, this is the big resistance up here, right? And we still have plenty of room. Even if you're being a little bit conservative down to 41.90, where you've touched the most times, you still have 40 points of upside. So I still like the upside here, and I'm not going short yet. Now, if I want to go short, where do we go short, right? Well, I make sure I throw this in every video. Underneath 4,100, underneath 12.95 on Nasdaq. But what do we want to highlight there? There's no cause, and for everyone that's out here that's very bearish, and again, my thoughts and prayers go out to you, right? You're like a loved one to me. I'm like, dude, I'm praying for you and all the stress you're going through right now. But if you're looking at this, what's the thing that's happened that's different right now over the past year? all these big drops that we've had right here, February, this was a pretty nice little drop you had. But if you really go back to last year, which everyone was talking about, the rates and PAL and inflation and all this stuff happening, look at these drops where this is where they first announced they're going to start, lower or raising rates. This is, back in March, after the Russia stuff, Jackson Hole, they raised rates again here. Well, these are big issues. Okay. But everyone's panicking about some of these drops while you're just trading in a range and there's no real downside here. Look at the Nasdaq. Just relax, just calm, just collected in this range. Okay? So we need to just understand that, one, bears don't have the momentum yet to push you down like they have in the past. And two, it's going to take what? We know what it's going to take to push you down. It's going to take bad data, right? Powell said it. Everyone in the Fed has said it. Tyler said it. We've been talking about it for months and weeks. Until you get bad data, until you get CPI rising once again, you aren't going to start dropping here on the Nasdaq specifically. Okay? We need to understand that. There's no reason to be bearish until inflation data shows inflation rising once again, because that would paint a very negative picture, right? You can disagree with me all you want, but that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. So, big areas we're watching for going into Wednesday, though, too. If you start to get the breakout, I think you're targeting around 13.7. Over 13.7, you're incredibly bullish. Obviously, going into ES, you're targeting it above 4,200. If you can mount 4,200, push up. Your area is around 43. I want to be exact, though, so I can tell you. It's around 43, like 20 up here. That's your next level to get above if you get to 42. If you break and hold 42, I think you easily push to 4,300. I think we get a nice rally on the market overall. But again, data is going to be the big decision there, and that's what we got to be watching. There's no reason to get crazy. That's what we're looking for there. Now, next step after this, what about some names that we're liking? And I know everyone here, you're highly interested in names that we're liking. Now, before we get into that, we're going to go over a few things. One, we got oil. We've been talking about this a lot. Until you get and hold above like 80 a barrel or on crude, there's no reason to get too optimistic here. We also look at yields. You can still see how we're operating here on the daily chart, still operating like you want downside. We look at the 2-year, the 5-year started to break down. You got back in it. The 10-year still looks okay. The 30-year is the strongest performing one. You want to see the 30 do the best. That's if you're bullish on the market, you want the 30 to hold up in comparison to the rest, because that demonstrates health in the overall economy. Now, going into something like VIX, giving you a visual here. You had that breakout, but we're still basically at $17, $16. I'm going to continue to say this, though. The VIX is the best hedge in the market right now. If you're looking at going long on equities like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVDA, whatever it may be, you can hedge your account with dated positions on something like VIX for a fraction of the price with any type of volatility. I recommend looking at how those contracts move and not just blindly going in anything, but it makes a lot of sense for your hedge. If you're looking at just going straight shares on something, VXX is also a great play. Giving you a visual about, just for example, during the little banking crisis we had in the beginning of it, you went from 43 all the way up to around $60. So almost a 50% gain on VXX, right? And that's just a hedge on your account as well. So there's different ways you can look at this, different ways you can kind of strategize. Something I'd be watching. People always ask the 0 DTE contracts on VIX now. I'm not interested. That's gambling. Why would I want to touch that? So understand that. Be on the lookout. Definitely food for thought, things to be looking for. Now, this is where things get good. I know you're wondering, Tyler, what stocks are we liking? What are the names across the board that you like? Now, if you watched my video from Friday, a few of those names, what did we talk about? NVIDIA was at the top of the list with AMD. What were we looking for? The break, retest, push back up. Now, you got that to an extent, not as optimal as you would like. Here, let's get off of extended hours. But you can see, you mount 280, we push back to 291. 292 new highs. Great. It's fantastic moving. Just no complaints there. AVGO, another great tech name out here in semiconductors. As long as you're in this range, you're targeting 630. You push down to 620, push right back up to 630. Great name there. All these are mentioned in previous videos, etc. Microsoft, right? Microsoft, you actually really interesting behavior at the end of the day. You had some Google news. That's why you're pushing on the after hours. But we basically come out, on Friday we hit 312. You're pushing back down here. If you can get back above 309 roughly, you're looking for more upside there as well. Okay, Google, another great name here. After hours, you're at 108. Really on Google, I'm going to tell you guys, when we start getting excited about some of these names, you need to start looking at some of these value names here as well. And it's kind of crazy calling Google a value name with how you're moving, but giving you a visual, right? So this is kind of where that gap starts, right about there. And you can just see how structurally we are moving. You can see that we're making higher lows across the board here. And you can also see right now you're kind of in a little bit of an ascending triangle, but the tops are a little bit off, as you can see as well. So higher lows within higher lows, and you're pushing back up here as well. And you're getting the breakout on the after hours with the new AI news that Google just announced in the after hours. They're doing like a big AI event and showing all the new stuff they're working on. Now, if you start breaking above the 109 region here and start getting above like 110, you have a lot of room back to 120, 121. I've been saying this on Google for a while. Google, in comparison to the rest of the market, everyone's saying, oh, the market's, we're pushing too high. We don't have that much upside. But when you look at big names like Google, you're still, 40, 50% away from highs. Food for thought. Amazon, another big name out here, right? And Amazon, it's getting to the point to where you got to start considering you are indeed very bullish here. Now, Amazon's doing something that I've been watching and waiting for very, very patiently. It's given me the signal almost here. So on Amazon, I want to get rid of these other indicators so you can see. You had that wedge, which obviously, fake out to the downside, pop back up. What are we looking for here? Amazon's very simple. Above 102.5, you love it. But above the 200 SMA, I'm in love with it. So if we can start mounting the 200 SMA, this simple moving average, not the smooth, the simple moving average, or just the regular moving average, you're looking to go long. So around 107, 106.5 with a good CPI reading, I do believe Amazon is one of the best stocks that there's going to be over the next 2 or 3 months. Quote this, I love it. You need good CPI readings, but I think Amazon has a ton of upside. Giving you a visual here, something that we kind of often overlook is the longer term view. You are still down from highs, 190, 188. You are at $105. I'm just saying, around 80% of upside still here on Amazon's chart, right? I'm not saying you're gonna go there tomorrow and nothing along those lines, but if you start to break and hold, you're gonna have a lot of momentum into 130, possibly 145. In the money position, start to look really good dated as well. Buying stock down here, right? It just makes sense. You have 20% downside, 80% of upside. Just saying. Beautiful, beautiful name here. Amazon's kind of stayed off our watch list for a while now, but once this starts to happen, it has to become the top of the list. Amazon, very, very nice name. We're also seeing names like Shopify getting a lot of love, getting a lot of traction here as well. Shopify pushing up. Definitely a reason, in my opinion, you're seeing some upside on Amazon as well. From that earnings, Shopify just killing it here. Again, we absolutely love it. AMD, semiconductors. Again, we've talked about this a lot. I mentioned a few videos ago. As you can see here, you can see the action that you're getting. The channel, break, channel, break, channel. Looks like you're going to break. If you haven't gotten to AMD already, you didn't have shares or anything on post earnings. Again, if you mount 100, I think you have a lot of upside. So again, right now, I think you can be conservative. Wait on AMD. If you get above 100, you're beautiful. But the mount was beautiful here on the weekly 200 SMA. Across the board, beautiful setup. But AMD, again, looks really good here. Last up, I'm going to mention Tesla. Tesla has been one of those names, okay? If we go to Tesla in the shorter time frame, like the 2 hour, I think you can obviously see the little bit of a inverse head and shoulders you have like forming out here. I've talked about it quite a bit. I don't want to go too in depth here, but you guys have seen me talk about it a little bit here, right? I just want to highlight what you have going on here. Okay. And you're breaking up. Now, Tesla, what happened here? You mounted your little gap right here where the gap starts. I love it. I think you have upside to get a little bit of a bull pennant. Any type of continuation for the market, maybe not even with continuation on the market, you still can get it. Tesla has a lot of room back into 180, 179, and then the gap fill right there as well, around 180 flat, give or take. So again, Tesla, AMD, Amazon, Google, probably my favorite names out there. Now, one stock, the last thing I'm going to mention is going to be QCOM. I ended up buying some shares of this today. I didn't go with anything with options. If you go to QCOM, you have to zoom all the way out to the weekly. This is a major, major level. Just the risk to reward here for me made sense. You're buying in this 104, 108 region. It makes sense, guys. The last time you were down here, we rallied from 107 back into 140. So I just started a position. If we start dropping down more, I'll probably keep adding them up. QCOM just made a deal today to acquire a chip company that works specifically with EVs, around 400, 500 mil. So they're still growing. They're still spreading. And that's what we talked about during this time. Well, the market's, consolidating. Well, the market is kind of not showing as much strength, right? With the recession and everything. Can companies still have room for growth? Can companies still step out and show that they're going to continue to grow? QCOM, I like them. I like the upside potential. They're killing it. And again, this was just a play that I ended up entering today as well. If you have comments, comment down below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.